I never imagined I'd be telling this story. Even as I begin now, I still hesitate because of how much it changed the way I see myself, my marriage, and the fragile nature of temptation. My name is Claire, and what I'm about to share isn't easy. But sometimes, silence weighs heavier than truth, and this moment has haunted me long enough. It all started one quiet morning in our home in Santa Barbara. My husband, Daniel, had left early for a business trip in San Francisco, the kind of trip he took so often that I almost became used to the silence left behind. Our house wasn't huge, but it had wide glass windows that opened to the ocean, filling the rooms with soft golden light and the steady rhythm of waves. Normally, that sound calmed me, but that morning I was restless. I decided to keep busy. I turned on some soft jazz and let it fill the living room while I began dusting the tall bookshelves Daniel loved, the ones where he displayed little souvenirs from his travels. I was dressed casually, just a white t-shirt and denim shorts, because I wanted to move around freely. I remember reaching high up to just a frame, my thoughts far away, when I felt eyes on me. I turned and there he was, Ethan, Daniel's son from his first marriage. He was leaning against the doorframe, his hair still messy from sleep, his presence filling the room in a way I hadn't expected. "Morning," I said with a smile, trying to keep it light. "Morning," he replied softly, his gaze lingering just a little longer than usual. He walked over to the sofa and sat down, still watching me as I tried to return to my task. But something about his presence pulled at me, making it harder to concentrate. We exchanged small talk about his internship, the projects he was working on, the kind of harmless chatter that should have been forgettable. But then I wobbled. The small stool I was standing on tilted unexpectedly. My breath caught in panic, and before I could fall, Ethan rushed forward, his hands catching my waist, steadying me. His arms were firm, protective, and for a split second, we stayed there, his body so close, his breath brushing against my cheek. Our eyes met, and in that silence, something stirred. I felt my chest tighten, my pulse race. I pulled away quickly, breaking the tension with a laugh. "Thanks. I could have really hurt myself." He didn't answer right away. His eyes stayed locked on mine, unreadable, until I looked away, smoothing my shirt nervously. I invited him to sit beside me on the sofa, thinking a little conversation would dissolve the strange electricity between us. Instead, it did the opposite. We sat close, sunlight pouring through the window, the sound of waves drifting in. There was no heaviness in the silence, just something unspoken hanging there, fragile yet impossible to ignore. I told him how much I love mornings like this, peaceful and unhurried. His voice dropped as he replied, "Especially when you're not alone." The words stopped me. They weren't just casual. They carried weight, intention. When I turned, his eyes held something raw, something tender. It wasn't the gaze of a boy anymore. It was a man looking at me as if he saw me, really saw me, in a way I hadn't felt in years. Almost without thinking, I touched his arm lightly. It was meant to be casual, maybe even motherly. But the air changed instantly, sharp with unspoken longing. Ethan's hand came to rest gently over mine. The warmth of it sent a shiver through me. My mind screamed that this was wrong, but my heart refused to move. I should have pulled back, but I didn't. Instead, I stayed there, my hand beneath his, listening to the rhythm of his breathing. He leaned closer, and I felt my body betray me by leaning too. The space between us vanished, and when his lips brushed mine, the world outside, waves, wind, time itself, seemed to fall away. It wasn't hurried or careless. It was tender, searching, almost hesitant, but powerful enough to break through the walls I had built around myself. His kiss made me feel something I hadn't let myself feel in so long. Wanted, seen, alive. "Claire," he whispered against my lips, his voice trembling. My hand shook as I touched his cheek, torn between guilt and a hunger I couldn't deny. His arms wrapped around me, strong but gentle, as if he could shield me from everything beyond that moment. For a heartbeat, I let myself sink into him, into the illusion that this was where I belonged. But reality doesn't wait forever. The sound of the front door opening shattered the spell. "Claire, I'm home." Daniel's voice rang through the house, cheerful, oblivious. My heart nearly stopped. Ethan pulled back instantly, his eyes wide with fear, yet still carrying the same yearning I felt. I scrambled to compose myself, smoothing my hair, forcing my lips into a smile as I stepped into the hallway. "I'm here," I called, steadying my voice even as my hands trembled. Daniel hugged me warmly, kissed my forehead, completely unaware of the storm raging inside me. He asked about my day, told me about his trip, his words washing over me like background noise. I nodded, smiled, pretended, but my eyes betrayed me when they flickered toward Ethan. He stood in the living room, his hands shoved into his pockets, his smile carefully forced. Our eyes met only briefly, but in that instant I knew the truth. We had crossed a line we couldn't uncross. Over the next few days, nothing felt the same. I cooked meals, cleaned the house, laughed at Daniel's jokes, all while carrying the secret weight of what had happened. Ethan avoided my gaze when Daniel was around, but when we crossed paths alone, in the kitchen, in the hallway, the silence between us grew louder than words. One evening, when Daniel went out with friends, I stepped into the backyard to tend the rose bushes. The late sun cast everything in gold, but my thoughts were heavy. I heard footsteps behind me, and without looking, I knew it was Ethan. He stopped just a breath away. "Are you avoiding me?" he asked softly, his voice strained with something between hurt and hope. I stayed silent, my hands trembling around the garden hose. "Claire," he said again, his tone breaking, "I can't pretend it didn't happen. I can't stop thinking about you." I turned toward him, meeting his eyes. They were filled with longing, confusion, guilt, all tangled together. My heart ached at the sight, because I felt it too. "We can't, Ethan," I whispered, my voice shaking. "This family, Daniel, everything depends on it. We have to stop." He swallowed hard, nodding slowly, but the look in his eyes told me he didn't believe it would be that simple. Neither did I, because no matter how many times I told myself it was over, the memory of his touch, his kiss, the way he had looked at me, those things stayed, echoing in the quiet spaces of my mind. And so here I am, torn between two worlds. One where I am the loyal wife, smiling beside my husband, and another where, in one stolen moment, I felt more alive than I ever had. I don't know where this path will lead, or if silence will keep us safe. But I do know one thing. What happened in that kitchen will never leave me. It changed everything.